Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
It was a Friday night, the kind I used to look forward to. I'd gotten off work early, swung by that little wine shop she liked off Fifth Street, and even stopped by the bakery for the lemon tart she always claimed made her forgive any mistake. I wasn't trying to fix anything, though. Not tonight. I just wanted us to spend some time together for once. The table was already set when she came in. Dim lights, music low, everything simple. I thought she'd smile, maybe even offer that half-hearted surprised face she wore when she didn't want to admit she liked something. Instead, she looked at the wine bottle like it had insulted her. "Oh," she said, dropping her bag on the couch without looking at me. "What's all this?" I smiled. "Just figured we could unwind tonight. Been a long week." She shrugged out of her jacket, toeing off her heels like she was unloading weights. "You could have just texted." "I wanted to surprise you," I said. That was when she looked me in the eye, and I mean really looked. Cold. Not angry, not even tired. Just indifferent. "Who needs intimacy anyway?" she muttered. And then, louder, as if she wanted to be sure I heard, "I don't get why men think everything's solved with candlelight and closeness." I just stood there. Not angry yet. Confused, more than anything. I said, carefully, "It's not about solving anything. I just wanted to spend some time with you." "Right," she said, grabbing a bottle of water from the fridge. Because nothing says romance like forced conversation after a work week. She didn't sit at the table. Just walked into the bedroom and shut the door behind her. No slamming, no tantrum. Just a soft, final click. I stood in the kitchen with my hands still resting on the back of the chair, like I wasn't sure whether to sit or throw the whole setup out the window. That was when it hit me, not anger, not even pain yet. Just realization. This wasn't about one bad day. This was a pattern. The distance had been creeping in like fog for months, maybe even years. You don't notice when it's gradual. Mistouches. Lingering silences. The way she'd roll her eyes if I said something too affectionate in public. The way her hand would casually slip away from mine on the couch when I tried to pull her close. I remember one time a few weeks ago, I'd reached over in bed, just placed my hand on her hip. She flinched, like I'd burned her. "God, you always want something," she whispered, turning away. I didn't say anything that time. Just pulled my hand back and stared at the ceiling like I was counting the seconds it would take for her to stop being a stranger. But tonight, something changed in me. Maybe it was the finality in her tone. Or maybe it was how calm I was, standing there with a table set for two and only one chair used. I didn't chase after her. I didn't knock. I just poured myself a glass of wine, took a slow sip, and let the silence settle. She didn't come out. An hour passed. Then another. Eventually, I blew out the candles, packed the tart back in the fridge, and rinsed her untouched glass. I left the wine on the counter, half drunk, like a metaphor I didn't want to acknowledge. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. Said good morning with the same tone she used with a barista. Made coffee, tapped away on her phone, hummed a song I couldn't name. I didn't say a word. Not because I was giving her the silent treatment, but because I'd already started saying everything I needed to in my head. And that's when her sister called. Angela had always been the understanding one. She and I had gotten along better than most in-laws do. She asked if we were still planning to come over next weekend for her son's birthday. I said I wasn't sure. There was a pause. "Things okay between you two?" she asked gently. "Yeah," I lied. "Just been tired." Angela hesitated. "Listen, I don't mean to pry, but if she's pushing you away, emotionally, don't take it personally. Jules has always been fiercely independent." "Right. Independent. That word people use when they don't want to say selfish. Or unavailable. Or just plain cruel." "Thanks," I said. "That means a lot." And it did. Until later that night, when I caught a glimpse of a text Jules sent Angela, something about me being needy lately, and weirdly clingy with his little date night theatrics. Theatrical. I stood in the hallway, holding the laundry basket like it might bite me. That was the moment I stopped trying to fix us. Because you don't fix people who don't think you matter enough to be broken for. That was the moment I started making space. Not to hurt her, but to remember what it felt like to breathe without walking on eggshells. I didn't give up on her all at once. That kind of surrender doesn't happen in a single argument or a dramatic moment. It unravels quietly, day by day. 100 small disappointments you tell yourself aren't that big of a deal, until one morning you wake up and realize you don't miss her smile anymore. Because you haven't seen it in so long, you've forgotten what it looks like. After that night, the candles, the wine, the lemon tart she didn't even touch, I stopped trying so hard. It wasn't a conscious decision. More like something inside me finally stopped twitching. I let the silence stay where it fell. No questions. No reaching out. I let her have all the distance she wanted and then some. She seemed to enjoy the new arrangement. Suddenly, she had more time for herself. Her schedule filled up. Book clubs, wellness nights, long brunches that ran until dinner. Every week, she found a new activity that didn't require me. I remember one night she came downstairs wearing a fitted blazer, heels, hair curled just enough to look effortless. She looked good. Beautiful even. I hadn't seen her put that much care into her appearance in months. You going out? Just drinks, she said, brushing invisible lint off her sleeve. With who? Jen. Some others from the studio. I nodded. She waited like she expected a follow-up, some hint of jealousy. But I just returned to my email, and a few seconds later, I heard the door close behind her. That was the beginning of something I didn't have a name for yet. Not bitterness. Not apathy. Something in between. Like I'd been benched in my own life and decided to stop pacing the sidelines. I started going to the gym again. Not obsessively. Just enough to feel my body again. After work, I'd take longer drives. Find scenic routes I hadn't noticed in years. I downloaded music I hadn't listened to since college. Loud, messy, nostalgic stuff that had no place in our carefully curated home. I didn't tell her any of this. She didn't ask. Some nights she got home after me. Other nights she went to bed early, claiming she was exhausted. Once I peeked into the bedroom around 11, just to see her lying there scrolling through her phone with the light off, the screen glowing against her face. I used to be the last thing she looked at before falling asleep. Now I was somewhere behind the brightness of her notifications. And it wasn't just the physical gap, it was the complete absence of acknowledgement. She used to leave sticky notes on the fridge, little reminders of love or groceries or things we'd laugh about. They disappeared. Our fridge became a plain, cold door. Like everything else. There was a weekend, not long after, when she went away for what she called a wellness retreat. I didn't ask where. I didn't ask who. I just said, text me when you get there. She didn't. Saturday night, I sat on the back deck under a sky full of stars. A scotch in one hand, an old photo album in the other. The pictures didn't make me sad. They made me tired. Like I was flipping through someone else's life, two people who smiled more, touched often, kissed with no hesitation. We hadn't done that in months? A year? Sunday evening, I got a text, heading back now. Hope you had a relaxing weekend too. I stared at it for a long time. No hearts. No emojis. Not even a question. Just a generic dispatch from someone who used to know me better than anyone. The next time Angela called, her sister, I could hear the concern before she even got to the question. Hey, how are you too? I took a breath. We're okay. Okay, doesn't sound like great. I think she's checked out, I said, not sure if I meant her or me. Angela sighed. She's been distant lately with me too. You know how Jules gets when she's in her strong woman phase. I didn't know what that meant. And I didn't care. I just muttered, yeah. Then came the kicker. She told me you've been acting different, Angela said. That you're kind of withdrawn. Like you don't seem interested anymore. I almost laughed. The irony of it. After months of being ignored, I finally created some space, and that's when she noticed. Angela added quickly, look, I'm not taking sides. I just think she's afraid to admit she might have pushed too far. Afraid. Jules was afraid? Of what, being seen as vulnerable? Or just afraid of needing someone? I didn't respond. There was nothing else to say. The next evening, we were both home for once. I was reading on the couch when she came and sat beside me, a little too casually. How was your day? She asked, like it was 2019 again. I looked up slowly. Good. Yours? Busy, she said, stretching. Thinking about maybe doing a couples massage sometime. I blinked. That came out of nowhere. Sure, I said. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. There was something performative in it, like she was checking a box, delivering intimacy like a product instead of a feeling. Later that night, she leaned in, resting her head lightly on my shoulder as we watched TV. It didn't feel warm. It felt like obligation. And that's when I realized something hard to swallow. I didn't miss her anymore. I missed who she used to be. But the person in my arms now? I didn't really know her. And she didn't really know me either. She just hadn't noticed how far apart we drifted until now. Too bad I was already floating somewhere else. It started with little things. One night she came downstairs in a soft robe, satin, pale blue, the kind she used to wear back when closeness wasn't a negotiation. She lingered by the kitchen, sipping water, not saying much, just waiting for me to notice. I did. I just didn't respond the way she expected. I gave her a polite smile and returned to the book in my hands. 5 minutes later, she drifted back upstairs. It happened again the next week. A quiet touch on my arm as she passed. A brush of her hand across my back when I stood at the sink. She started saying things like, "Maybe we should go away for a weekend," or, "I've been thinking about when we used to watch movies in bed." Casual throwbacks tossed like breadcrumbs. But I wasn't hungry anymore. Whatever she thought she was trying to revive had been buried for too long. She tried conversation. At dinner, she'd ask about my day with a little more animation, maybe even some eye contact. Once, she laughed too loud at a mild joke I made, then looked embarrassed when I didn't join her. I'd seen this pattern before, except usually from men in online forums, describing how their wives grew distant and how they scrambled to win them back. Funny how the roles can reverse without anyone announcing the switch. One night, she sat beside me and handed me her phone. "Look," she said. "I deleted all my social apps. I want to be more present." I nodded. "That's good." She was waiting for more. A gold star. A kiss, maybe. I didn't offer either. Not out of cruelty. I just didn't have it in me anymore to reward empty gestures. She looked confused for a second, like she'd walked into a room and forgotten why she was there. Then came the bold move. It was a Saturday morning. I was at the sink, rinsing out the coffee pot, still in my gym clothes, when she wrapped her arms around me from behind. It was the most physical contact we'd had in months. At first, I froze. Not out of shock, just unfamiliarity. Then, softly, she said, "I miss us." I dried my hands and turned to face her. She was searching my expression for a trace of the man who used to chase her, apologize first, plan everything. I didn't give her that. "Do you miss me?" she asked. I looked her in the eyes and said quietly, "I miss who we used to be. There's a difference." She stepped back, like I'd shoved her. But I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't made a scene. I was just done pretending. She began staying home more after that. Watched me closer. Sat on the couch beside me instead of scrolling in another room. One night, she cooked dinner, an actual meal, not takeout, not pasta thrown together with jar sauce. It was the dish I'd made for her on our second date. "You remember?" I said, surprised. She looked down. Of course I remember. The meal was good. Thoughtful. But when she leaned across the table and reached for my hand, I didn't meet her halfway. I thanked her for the dinner. I cleared my plate. I told her I was going for a walk. The silence behind me said everything she was afraid to. That was the night Angela called again. She didn't beat around the bush this time. "She called me crying," Angela said. "Said she feels like she's losing you." I didn't respond. "She asked me what to do," Angela continued. I told her the truth. "What truth?" Angela hesitated, then said something I didn't expect, that she waited too long to come back. That some people only turn around when they feel you slipping. But by then, you're already gone. I leaned against the wall, staring at the painting in our hallway, some abstract piece Jules insisted we buy because it spoke to her. It never spoke to me. Just looked like confusion on canvas. "She thought I'd always wait," I said softly. Angela exhaled. Maybe she still thinks that. I almost told her about the journal I'd started keeping. Not just entries, but letters. Pages of words I never said out loud. Things I needed to write so I wouldn't say them in anger. All the times she rolled her eyes at my affection. All the times she dismissed my needs as childish. All the ways she made me feel like asking for closeness was weakness. I never planned to show it to her. But now, I kind of hoped she'd find it. I wanted her to see what it cost to live next to someone and never reach for them. Later that week, it happened. I was out for a late grocery run. When I came back, the house was quiet. She was curled up in bed, facing away from me. My bag was still on the counter when I heard her voice, small, tired. "I read what you wrote." I didn't answer. She sat up slowly. "I didn't know you felt all that." "You didn't want to know?" I replied. She looked at me then. Not with anger. Not with defense. Just sorrow. "I thought you'd wait," she said. "I thought that's what love meant." "It used to," I said. "But love isn't unconditional when it's never returned." That's when she cried. Really cried. Not dramatic, not performative. Just quiet tears falling as she sat on the edge of the bed, realizing something too late. The look in her eyes wasn't fear of losing me. It was recognition that she already had. Something shifted after that night. She didn't pretend anymore. There was no more pretending that we were fine or that things hadn't decayed past repair. The walls she'd spent years building up between us were finally being dismantled, but now she was the one scrambling, suddenly terrified of the distance she'd cultivated. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of pancakes. Actual pancakes, not a protein bar or toast thrown on a plate. She had made breakfast. She sat across from me, smiling too much, trying too hard. "I've been thinking," she said, sliding coffee toward me. "We should take that road trip to Maine. You always wanted to do that." I nodded, took a sip, and said nothing. That's what shook her. Not rage. Not bitterness. Just stillness. She tried again that weekend. Booked a couple's massage. Said she'd made a reservation at the little Italian place we hadn't been to in 2 years. She even wore that navy dress she knew I liked, the one with the tiny gold clasp at the collarbone. But when she came downstairs, I was already dressed for the gym. "You're not coming?" she asked. "I have plans." She didn't argue. Just stood there with her lip slightly trembling like she wanted to ask why, but knew the answer. Later that night, I came home to candles lit in the bedroom, music playing low, her lying across the bed like a memory she was trying to resurrect. It might have worked months ago, but I just walked to the dresser, took off my watch, and said, "I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. I have an early start." And I did. For the first time in months, I slept peacefully. Then came the grand apology. 2 days later, she sat me down on the couch and cried harder than I'd ever seen her cry. No makeup, no armor. Her hair pulled back messily, her sleeves damp from wiping her eyes. "I messed this up," she whispered. "I didn't know how far I'd pushed you until I saw your eyes last week. You didn't look angry. You looked done. And that scared me more than any fight ever could." She took my hand. "Please don't let go of us. I need you." Those last 3 words hung in the air. She hadn't said she needed me in years. Not for support. Not for laughter. Not for love. She had prided herself on being independent, wearing it like a badge, as if needing someone was a weakness. And now here we were. I didn't say much. I listened. I let her talk. She apologized again, this time without justifying it, without spinning it. She said she had been selfish, dismissive, blind. That she thought she was protecting herself from vulnerability, but all she did was punish someone who only ever wanted to be close to her. The words landed, but they didn't move me. I wasn't being cruel. I was just numb. Her regret didn't undo the damage. Her tears didn't refill what she'd drained from me for years. The trust, the intimacy, the quiet belonging. Those things don't come back with apologies. They take presence, repetition, time. That night, I told her I needed space. Real space. She looked at me, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean I'm moving out for a while," I said. "Just a week or 2. Maybe more. I need time to figure out what I still want from this." Her face cracked. Are you seeing someone else?" "No," I said. "But I'm seeing myself again. And I'm not sure I like what I became in this house." That was the truth. I rented a place 2 towns over. Short term. Nothing fancy. Just clean walls, clean sheets, a coffee machine that only brewed for one. I told no one at first. I didn't want sympathy. I didn't want advice. I just wanted to be invisible long enough to hear my own thoughts again. A few days in, I got a call from Angela. "I had dinner with Jules last night," she said. I didn't answer. "She's a mess," Angela added. "But it's strange. She keeps asking me what you want, like she suddenly can't read you anymore." "That's because she hasn't tried in years," I said flatly. There was silence on the line. Then Angela said something that caught me off guard. "You know, she used to tell me you were too emotional, that you made a big deal out of things that weren't that important." I sat forward. "She said that to you?" "More than once," she said. I didn't say anything because, well, she's my sister. But I always thought it was unfair. You weren't asking for anything crazy. You just wanted a partner. She wanted a roommate who wouldn't touch her unless she scheduled it. I swallowed hard. "Why are you telling me this now?" Angela hesitated. "Because I think she's finally seeing what it looks like when she doesn't get her way. And for once, I'm not sure I want her to." That was the twist. The person who had always defended her, always smoothed things over behind the scenes, was finally admitting what I'd suspected deep down. I hadn't imagined the neglect. I hadn't overreacted. I'd just been silenced. And now her greatest ally wasn't so sure she wanted to clean up the mess anymore. Before she hung up, Angela added something else. "I told her you were journaling." She didn't believe me. "She found it," I said. "She read it." Angela exhaled. "Then she knows what she lost." Even after her tears, her calls, her sudden interest in everything she used to ignore, I stayed away. Not out of spite, but clarity. Once you taste peace, it's hard to forget what it was like choking on someone else's silence for so long. She texted me often those first 2 weeks. Not desperate stuff. Just check-ins, casual lines dressed as calm. Hope you're sleeping okay. Tried that Thai place we used to love? Wasn't the same without you. Just wanted to say I miss your laugh. I responded once, maybe twice. Politely. Neutrally. The way you'd respond to someone returning a book you forgot you lent them years ago. But the deeper silence? That was mine now. One evening, I drove past the house. Lights on in the living room. Curtains pulled back. Her silhouette moving slowly inside. The home we built together looked too big for one person. Too quiet. I remembered how she once told me that solitude was empowering. That being wanted wasn't the same as being needed. That intimacy was overrated. She was learning now what I already knew. And when you ignore someone long enough, they eventually stop asking to be seen. A few days later, she called. I let it ring twice before picking up. I'm not calling to beg, she said. I just wanted to hear your voice. Angela told me what she said. About defending me too long. She's not wrong. I pushed you away and then blamed you for standing at a distance. I could hear her steadying herself, like the words had to be forced out. I thought needing someone made me weak. So I acted like I didn't. I convinced myself that being untouched meant being free. But now I know better. I do need you. Not because I'm lonely, but because I was loved by you in ways I didn't appreciate. I closed my eyes. Let the weight of that sit for a moment. Then I said, you don't get to remember us now like it was always there. You buried it. I know, she said. And I'm sorry. I don't need your apology. I replied. I needed your presence. Months ago. Years ago. And you weren't there. She began to cry again. I just want to fix it, she whispered. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see it. You want to feel close to me again. But not because you want me. You want comfort. Familiarity. But love doesn't grow in a place where it's been starved. There was a silence, raw and long. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. Is this it? Yes, I said, steady and soft. It is. She didn't yell. She just let out this sound, small, broken. The kind of sound that doesn't come from your throat, but from somewhere deeper. I hung up gently. That weekend, I met with a realtor. We had agreed to sell the house. She didn't protest. Didn't even show up to the walkthrough. I packed my things in silence. Framed photos. The wine glasses from our wedding registry. The journal I thought I might burn one day. I didn't. I kept it. As I was walking out the front door for the last time, I paused. Took one last look at the home where we had once built a future. Where I had fought for connection, and she had closed the door with a smile. Angela showed up, surprising me. She helped me load the last of the boxes into my car. She didn't say much, just hugged me before I left. She's not the same, Angela said quietly. I'm not either, I replied. She nodded, and for once, didn't try to soften the truth. Driving away, I didn't cry. I didn't replay the old memories or wonder what could have been. I just felt clean. Later that night, I got one last text from Jules. I didn't realize how much I needed intimacy until I had no one to reach for. You were right. I stared at the message. Typed a reply. Deleted it. And then I did something she never expected. I blocked her number. Because closure isn't something you ask for. It's something you claim. And I had claimed mine the moment she reached for me. And found only the absence she once gifted me.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.